Hi there again. So we're into part 2 of our Adventures in Works Cited here. We have our Works Cited entry that we created in part 1 for our secondary source, the discussion of the short story Araby by the author that's named here. And you may have noticed I typed in the wrong date, so I caught that and changed it. And now, since any essay that has a secondary source on the short story Araby is also going to need a works cited that includes, of course, the short story itself. So we might as well do that entry. So we start, once again, at the COD library homepage, and we find our citing sources link here. And remember that for any material from our Norton book, we are going to follow the model for this one, articles, chapters from an edited book. Once again, the general model here, and then of course the one with the actual details filled in. So I will cut and paste this into my works cited, remembering of course that I will ultimately have to reformat for double spacing and indenting and that kind of thing. But, so I happen to know off the top of my head that James Joyce is my author. And I also know that I will have to rearrange these alphabetically, but I'll worry about that after I've finished the entry itself. Okay, author, last name, comma, first name, title of article or chapter. In this case, it's a short story, but it's going to be Araby. Remember, we noted the confusion, potential confusion, because we have two things of the same title. Luckily, we have different authors, of course. So it allows us in our text to just cite by author name. We don't have to refer to just the title, which could get very confusing. Title of the book, pretty simple, because I have it in front of me. Whoops. I guess not that simple. The Norton Introduction to Literature. Notice italicized book title. In some cases, depending on what you're citing here, like a play, which is also italicized, you may have two work titles that are italicized back to back, but in this case short story goes in quotation marks, and then our book title gets italicized. Alright, ed, which means editor, or no, in this case it means edition. I'm going to leave that out since we're dealing with, it happens to be the shorter ninth, but I'm interested then in the name of editors. That and the city of publication, publisher, date, page numbers for the short story. All of this information is, of course, from the book itself. And that publication information you can find, and you might hear me flipping the pages here, in that front matter, the first couple of pages with the really small text. The name of the editors is a little confusing, I have to admit, for our book, because if you look in one spot, it lists Peter Simon as the editor. In other places, it seems to suggest that there's multiple editorship. There's Allison Booth, there's J. Paul Hunter, and there's Kelly J. Mays. I'm going to use the three names because they seem to be more responsible for this particular edition of the book, as opposed to the other name, the Peter Simon name, which is maybe an overall project editor. I would say that in either case, since both are given as editors in our book itself, you could be pretty safe both ways. Now I want to make sure I get the formatting of the author names right, so I look at my example here, and it looks like Mark C. Connor, so I don't do last name, first name. So ed, z in this case, because they're plural, and then I just type in exactly what I'm reading from the small print in the book. J. Paul Hunter and, whoops, Kelly J. Mays. So just sort of read through, make sure you got it correct, and that gives us our, pardon me, our editors. City of publication, again I just look, good old New York. In cases where, as in our book, you're given a couple of different cities, New York and London, you would just pick, for us, the United States place of publication. Sometimes you're given a whole list of cities. Just pick the first one is usually the best plan. City, colon, publisher is W.W. Norton and Company. The date of publication, again, I can see a whole bunch of copyright dates going back to 1973, but I'm just going to pick the most recent, the edition, or the date for the edition, for our edition of the book, 2006, period. Page numbers. Okay, this means that the first page and the last page of my short story. So I'm going to go and find Araby begins on 432, and it runs to 436. I think I'd have this stuff memorized by now, but nope. The medium is print, and that should do it. I'll double check my example here. And yeah, I think I got it close. I would always go back and re-edit these afterwards to make sure I got everything correct, but it looks pretty much right. Maybe some spacing issues. And then normally in an essay this is already going to be double spaced, but I will just put the spaces in. And now to indent these lines, ooh, it gets all weird. Oops. Tedious, I know, but there you have it. And I remember that I need to have these alphabetical. I get an extra space, remember to take that out. So this all looks, I think, pretty good. I got my primary text author, title of that work, Norton Introduction to Literature. I've listed my editors, New York is the place of publication, the publisher, the year, and then page numbers for my story, and of course the medium, print. Got my secondary source author, title, the original journal or place of publication where it was first printed, the database that I got it from, medium, of course the web, and then the date of access, as in when I found that information. And I changed that year so it reflects the correct year. Alright, looks good. Everything's double spaced, formatted properly. It looks good. I even added a page number here since this would likely be a page further on in a longer essay. Excellent. All right, this is ready to go.